In this Northern Brewer video, fire meets beer with beer poking, a fun and flavorful outdoor activity for homebrewers and craft beer lovers alike. Hello everyone, I'm Chip Walton, digital producer for Northern Brewer. I'm here in my backyard in St. Paul, Minnesota. The birds are chirping because they think spring's on the way. As you can see, the snowbanks behind me are as tall as the fence line in some places, with another foot of snow on the way tomorrow. So it seems like winter's never ending, but we learn to embrace it. We embrace the winter and the cold climate by doing fun things outdoors like beer poking. What is beer poking? Well, it's just what it sounds like. You take a metal rod, heat it in a fire, then poke it into a glass of beer, quickly blasting it with extreme heat, which caramelizes the beer and creates a marshmallowy, frothy head. Beer poking has been around for a long time and has historic roots, but seems to have become even more popular recently at taprooms and breweries. Besides being really cool looking and a great excuse to hang out by the fire pit, poking a beer changes its flavor, as I'll describe in just a moment. First, if you like what you see here and you learn a thing or two along the way, please do us a solid. Like this video, subscribe if you're not already, and share with someone you think would like to poke a beer at home. As you can imagine, certain styles lend themselves nicely to being poked. Think malty beers, specifically Box and Doppelbock seem to get this treatment a lot. And then there are styles that are not so great to be poked. And we learned all about both of those recently. Coworkers and I put the poker to the test outside NBHQ this week with a handful of craft beers, as well as 2 homebrews from the brew cave. Beers we assumed would work well include Shell's Firebrick Vienna Lager and their Scotch Ale, Castle Danger's Dark Chocolate George Hunter Stout, and Modest Brewing's Gifts of the Sacred Father Doppelbock. The ideal hot poker will be glowing red when submerged in the beer. Our pokers weren't getting quite red hot, but you can see they were certainly hot enough to get the job done. Strangely enough, the beer doesn't really get all that hot when poked, just a slight bit warmer than it already was. For our evaluations, we poured small control samples of beer to compare side by side with their poked counterparts. What we found is the darker, maltier beers seem to benefit most, as the hot poke amplified already present caramel, roast, toast, and chocolate flavors. I think the crowd favorite was the Dark Chocolate George Hunter Stout, an already decadent, almost dessert-like beer. Poking it created a wonderful burned sugar and scorched marshmallow flavor, reminiscent of campfire s'mores. Aside from the change in flavor, multiple people noted how warm and toasty the head of all of these beers became. It was very cozy and fun as you sip through the foam to get to the cooler beer below. Someone even compared it to a beer latte. Shell's Firebrick was also very nice, as the poke transformed the Vienna Lager into something a bit more toasty and rich, almost like an alt beer. And to no one's surprise, Modest Doppelbock was absolutely wonderful, as that blast of heat added to the malty depth of the beer. Poking also leaves the beer a bit less carbonated, a more smooth body, almost like a pub ale or something being poured off a beer engine. This enjoyable change in carbonation was noted pretty much across the board, which makes sense as CO2 is forced out of solution with heat. Even our resident brew dog was getting in on it. Another thing that almost everyone noticed was a general reduction in bitterness, which was fun in some of the maltier beers, but left the cold IPA and double IPA really out of balance and overly sweet. We really don't recommend poking hoppy beers. The cream ale was also not a great option, as it ended up tasting a bit too much like roasted corn. Here comes a car! Blooper reel! We also poked 2 of our beer recipe kits that had been homebrewed at HQ, Dragon Silk Imperial Stout and our newest Baltic Wolf Baltic Porter. We all thought the Dragon Silk would be a home run. It's a Imperial Stout, high ABV, that's aged on bourbon soaked oak cubes. However, it was very unpleasant. I think the heat from the poke really amplified those spirit notes and those wood notes in a way that really wasn't that enjoyable. However, the Baltic Wolf Baltic Porter was a hit. The extreme heat from the poke kind of amplifying this toasted graham cracker and toffee note. So all in all, really fun day. A couple of things I wanted to mention is if you try this at home, obviously safety first, wear gloves, be very careful, alcohol, and fire don't always mix. Consider having a designated poker like we did. Our coworker Troy, who was on no alcohol for Lent, was nice enough to be our designated poker. The other thing we noted, some breweries around here we've seen kind of wipe off the red hot rod with a towel to kind of get any ash and soot off of it before poking. We tried that. Was that your best towel at home?
Yeah, this is my bath towel. This is what I showered with this morning.
And as you see, we basically set our towel on fire over time. So we suggest you either wet that towel, which we really didn't want to do since it was outdoors in the middle of winter, or just go all natural and maybe get some ash or soot in your beer. I mean, we eat toasted marshmallows and they come with this like crispy singed exterior. So, you know, don't fear the foam, don't fear the ash to some extent. Shout out to 1571 Fahrenheit out of Menominee, Wisconsin. They make these really cool beer caramelizers, as they call them. 1571 Fahrenheit is apparently the temperature of a fire. I do suggest you get the expansion pack like my buddy Troy in the video had. It makes this much longer. Really keeps this handle away from the fire, which you see kind of got scorched and singed yesterday. But the super cool products, stainless steel, high quality. We want to know your beer poking stories. Have you gone to a brewery and had a beer poked? Have you had one at home? Would you do one at home? What styles do you think work? Leave us a comment below, like and subscribe. Always be safe around fire, and cheers.